My wife. She's not the woman I used to know, not the girl I fell in love with, not the person who once cried with me when I had no one else in the world. I first met her in high school. I was 15, and she was a bit older, 17. Back then, everything felt simple, even when life wasn't. The latter half of my teenage years were probably the hardest I've ever lived through. Within a span of just 6 months, I lost my mother, my only family. I never knew my father, so her death left me completely alone in the world. I didn't even have a proper home after that. Back then, my wife and I were just friends. Was there every day. She would sit with me after school, bring me lunch when I couldn't afford it, walk me home even if her place was in the opposite direction. She grieved with me in silence. She understood pain not because she experienced mine, but because she cared enough to hold it with me. That was when I started falling in love with her quietly, without knowing. We started dating when I was 17. 7 years later, I married her. Let me paint a picture of the girl I married. She wasn't materialistic at all. She hated flashy clothes and expensive jewelry. Makeup meant little to her, and she thought designer brands were a waste of money. She used to get excited finding cool jackets at thrift stores or discounted boots during end-of-season sales. I still remember the day I tried to impress her with my Nissan 370Z. I pulled up with so much pride, thinking she'd be thrilled. She tilted her head, squinted at the logo, and said, "What car is this? A Corolla?" And she wasn't joking. She truly didn't know or care. That was the kind of woman I loved. Down-to-earth, humble, full of heart. Was the most caring person I'd ever met. She was always the more successful one between us. She worked her way up in big corporations, sharp and focused. I worked as a community first responder at the local hospital. My salary wasn't much, but I loved my job. I helped people. I made a difference even if the world didn't see it. Then, 2 years ago, everything changed. She got an incredible job offer, an executive-level position in a prestigious company. They offered her 4 times her current salary. It was an offer most people only dream of. The catch: we'd have to relocate to a different city. A fresh start, but it would mean I'd have to leave my job. I hesitated. I told her I didn't know how I'd contribute financially without work. But she smiled and told me not to worry, that she could support us both now. She said I could take care of the house for a while and job hunt slowly. She was thrilled, full of hope, ambition lighting her up in ways I hadn't seen before. So I said yes, because I loved her, because I believed in her, because I wanted to support her dreams the same way she once supported mine. But the woman who took that job isn't the woman who came back to me, bit by bit. Caring about luxury brands names she once couldn't even pronounce. She bought jewelry, designer handbags, luxury watches. I remember standing in the hallway watching her unbox a Versace handbag like it was sacred. It was surreal. This was the same woman who used to bargain over secondhand coats. Then came the friends, coworkers, mostly women. She went out with them constantly. She was never very social before, so I was initially happy. I thought maybe she was finding joy, confidence she'd lacked, but those get-togethers turned into frequent absences. She stopped coming home on time. Eventually, it became rare for me to even see her for 10 minutes a day. She'd say she was swamped with work, but I'd see her posting pictures, smiling in rooftop lounges, shopping in luxury malls, sipping cocktails with colleagues I didn't even know the names of. When I texted, she barely responded, and when she did, it was always working. Later, but she always had time to post a selfie or a boomerang from brunch. I asked her if she was okay, if she was still happy in this marriage. She'd brush it off, saying I was being dramatic, that I was imagining things. Then came the Porsche. One morning, she left for work in her usual Audi A3, and that evening, she returned in a Porsche Macan GTS. I stared at the car in disbelief. She used to say she didn't care about cars. I asked if it was company issued. She laughed coldly and said no. I asked her why she spent so much. Her reply, "It's my money. I can do what I want with it." There was no warmth, no patience, no love, just a wall I couldn't get through. Soon after, she didn't come home one night. I texted, no reply. I called. No answer. The next afternoon, she casually called and said she forgot to mention she was out of town on a business trip. Forgot? The woman I married would have left a handwritten note before forgetting something like that then. The final blow? She invited me to lunch with her colleagues. I was thrilled finally something together. I hoped it meant she still saw me as her partner. She left early for work, and I followed later, dressing up as best I could. Since I had sold my 370s years ago, I drove our modest Renault Clio. I parked it outside the restaurant and walked in, smiling until I saw her expression. She looked at me like I was some kind of embarrassment. Her face drained of color. She rushed to me, grabbed my arm, and pulled me outside. And then she yelled at me for parking the Clio in front of the restaurant. Said I embarrassed her, that I should have parked far away hidden. Said it wasn't on brand with the life she was presenting, that I didn't represent her lifestyle. I stood there. Stunned, no words came. She warned me never to do that again, and walked back inside like nothing happened. I followed, sat at that table through the rest of the lunch, numb. That was the moment I knew. The woman sitting across from me wasn't my wife anymore. Now, tonight, she's out celebrating a successful fiscal year. I'm sitting here alone with divorce papers in front of me. I've written this over and over, trying to understand. Where things went wrong? I tried, truly, to talk to her so many times. I told her I felt her slipping away. That she had changed. That she wasn't the woman I married. But she'd wave it off, say I was overthinking. That she didn't have time for drama. She even laughed at me once. She doesn't want kids anymore, says they'll get in the way of her career. She used to dream of traveling the world with me. Now she says it's pointless. A waste of time. Is she still the woman I married? Or has she truly become someone else? Still, I haven't signed the papers. Maybe it's foolish, maybe even pathetic, but a part of me hopes that deep inside her, somewhere buried under luxury brands and corporate parties, there's still the girl who once held my hand in silence as I cried for my mother. The girl who once said, "We'll face everything together, okay?" I miss her. God, I miss her more than I can bear. But I don't know how much longer I can keep holding on to someone who's already let go.